I'm not going to AI wash, I promise you, but equally I'm not going to holiday wash. Don't zoom your cameras in too close. The holiday was a bit of a nightmare. I'm covered from head to foot in mosquito bites all around my face, and the clubhouse at one of the top courses in Europe had burned down before we actually got there. So that's my holiday washing out of the way. So I've got about 40 minutes to talk to you about what I think is one of the really most important subjects on board agendas, on all the conferences around the world. It's keeping me in business, traveling everywhere. But I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. I'm not someone who's just jumped into this and claiming to be this, that, and the other. I've been involved in AI for about 10 or so years, and I've written a couple of books on this subject. And it's really many of the subjects that we've been talking about today throughout the last 3 or 4 hours, which is about how do we adapt? How do we as organizations thrive? How do we keep our people and our customers at the center of everything we do? So there's a bit about me. I run a small marketing agency, but I spend most of my time based on the intellectual property from 2 books and the work I do on the All-Party Parliamentary Group, which isn't affiliated to any political party, but it's all about how do organizations really adopt AI. And we hear evidence. We did it all through COVID virtually. Now we hear evidence in the House of Lords every month from people all over the world, all different sizes of companies, all different industry sectors, and it's peer-to-peer learning, and we're trying to understand. So I'm going to share with you in this session some stuff from the book, some stuff from yesterday, and some information that I gleaned from all of the different roles that I play there. But first of all, can't get away, last couple of polls here. We're really keen to hear from you. What do you fear most about AI? We've all got our fears. After this, I'm going to clarify exactly what we mean by AI. But what is it that you fear? Is it about the changing culture and the potential to dehumanize? Is it impact on privacy? Or is it about making your role redundant? Let's have a quick look and see what the results from that are. Give it another 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm not surprised, the top one here. Interestingly, dehumanizing, when I come to define AI in a moment, hopefully that will clarify that. There's a paradox. I've got a whole chapter in my book about the paradox of personalization. AI is really about data and insights. It's not the big shiny robot coming and taking all of our jobs. So actually, getting to know your people and not grouping them in a really homogeneous way, but actually being able to segment them. You know, I've got 2 daughters, 24, 27. Their needs from the workplace are very different to mine. Equally, if I'm selling to them as a marketeer or a sales professional, or I'm looking after them from an HR perspective, very, very different. So I'll share a bit more information on that. Next poll. Flipping the coin here, what do we think is going to be the biggest benefit to your current role from artificial intelligence? Productivity, you hear a lot about that. Adding strategic value, or knowledge of your employees, deeper understanding, which I alluded to in that last one. Let's see what we get from here. It could keep changing, but let's see. Right, interesting. So productivity, certainly one of the big, well-known factors at the moment, that AI actually makes us very, very productive. I'm sure most of you have played around with generative AI, and that's the one that's really brought AI to the attention in the last 9 months. But making HR more strategic, from my point of view, that's the really crucial one. I think we're at a turning point now in business because of technology, where there's a role for strategic, focused HR people to be at the absolute right-hand side of the CEO. They need to constantly upskill themselves and their organizations, and they need, as an organization, as a team, to invest in all of the right tools to enable them to do it. And of course, WorkBuzz is one of those. But I'm surprised that the last one there didn't get higher numbers. Knowing your employee, the employee is at the center, they're our assets. We need to get to know them better. That's the purpose of today, is to understand, really what is it that drives our people? How do we attract them? How do we retain them? And so on. So, yeah, interesting to see how that moves forward. There we go, thank you. So I've already dived in there just to sort of sense and get your views on things, but let's look at what we mean by AI. It was described earlier. All of the big wigs are gathering today and tomorrow in Bletchley Park. This is a technology that's been around for nearly 70 or more years. And, really what we're talking about here is its ability not to blind us with science and not to even worry us about how things work, but to think about the benefits. So 87% of global organizations believe that AI tech is giving them a competitive edge. If we don't get that, then there's no point in investing in it. But what do we mean by it? We're really talking about the ability to imitate intelligent human behavior. We're not yet, and I hasten to add the word yet, we're not yet at a phase where AI can do everything a human can do, one AI. And when I talk about AI, I'm talking about robotic process automation, generative AI, software virtual agents. There's this whole family of AI, which we'll cover in a moment in a little bit more detail. But we're not talking about one of those that can do everything. We're talking about a robotic arm that can flip burgers, another that can clean the floor, a software package embedded with AI, like Aid perhaps, that's going to really support you, with your people-centric drive, all kinds of other ways of understanding your people, sifting CVs and so on. So that's really at the heart of what we're talking about. And it's that ability, when we can crack how the neurons in our brain work, then we'll start to worry. But at the moment, we are not there yet. But that doesn't mean we mustn't worry about some of the big macro issues of privacy and consent and so on. And I'll come on to those in a minute. So we're not talking about big, shiny robot. We are talking about something that's really a co-pilot, is a tool, is a set of tools and techniques that are the next wave of technology, the next wave of areas that are going to reshape the way we do business. So you don't go out of business, you don't get replaced, you aren't redundant just because AI's in, but if you individually or you as a team or you as an organization fail to implement and change and take advantage of some of the tools like Aid, like others that are on the market, then you do get left behind. And then ultimately your market share gets eroded and, it's a very difficult situation. But what it's not a threat to every single worker. It's not going to erode every single job function, but it is going to reshape every single job function, every single industry sector all over the world. And admittedly, there will be more that get eroded, and there will be new areas that are created. I'm thinking of your job title, Chief Experience Officer, Chief Customer Officer, AI Ethics Advisor. There are new industries, new job functions, new roles that are creeping up all of the time. So here's a quick flavor. I'm not going to spend too long on these, but I wanted you to get a sense of what this umbrella of different technologies is. It's not just one type of AI, it's interactive AI. It might be in your Apple devices, it might be a chatbot. It could be visual AI in driverless vehicles, for example, or it could be using visual AI in insurance. You have a car crash, you upload it into a system, it comes into a portal, and it helps you get an instant quote. It could be functional AI. This might be robotics. It's the intersection of AI with Internet of Things where, let's say in the washroom of this hotel, they've got sensors that tell you 30 people have been through that washroom, now it's time to come and clean it, rather than sending your people in every hour to do so. In that hour, you might have only had one person through. So it's big data that's giving you insights. So I prefer to think about the term augmented intelligence, and I was pleased to hear it used earlier, augmented intelligence rather than artificial. And what that really means is smart big data. Big data for HR, which means you're able to take away the guesswork of maybe things that you've done for many years that have been a bit less analytical. Smart education, smart healthcare, smart law, etc. It is big data, it's knowledge, and that's fundamental to our success. And then analytic AI, this might be in some of the marketing areas, it might be in some of the surveys that you do from an HR perspective, which is sentiment analysis. We don't just want results and numbers of surveys completed. We want to understand the mood. We want to have deep insights about what our people really, really think. So that sentiment analysis is really important. And then finally, the biggie that everyone's talking about, which is generative AI. And we're not just talking, we talked about Bing earlier, Bing and ChatGPT, but also the visual versions of that with DALL-E and Midjourney. That ability, and I loved the phrase earlier about democratizing. I feel that AI is able, and this is really important from an HR perspective, someone comes out of an apprenticeship or someone comes out of university or college, but equally somebody might, like me, 56, might be upskilled. It doesn't matter if we're 20 or if we're 56. We have all got to be on that journey of continuous learning. But I think what AI does do is democratize, because someone comes in their 20s, armed with all the right tools and analysis and so on. They shouldn't have to wait 10 or 15 years and grey hair and gravitas to get that promotion. So I think it's reshaping the way that we look at people and how well equipped they are, but equally, maybe our clients don't want to be dealing with someone in their 20s. Maybe they feel they do need somebody with a bit more experience. So that's where we balance those soft and hard metrics and so on there. But these are some of the different ways in which AI is shaping up. Let's look at it now specifically in your industry sector. So nearly 82% adopting more AI tools into their talent management over the next few years. 60% saying their organizations are already utilizing it. 60% of CEOs thinking it can drive significant human value, and 60% saying they would consider using AI to promote equity, to promote inclusion, diversity in the workforce. So again, quick flavor of what do we mean by, HR is a very big, broad area, a very important discipline in the organization. We're talking about the ability of this AI, machine learning, all different aspects that fall under that banner to help us, for example, to hire quickly, to be more effective in the way that we do that through the big data. It might be keyword scanning for CVs. It might be actually some kind of bot doing some of the interviewing. It might actually be automated candidate engagement. However, we do need a human in the loop in all of this. Many of my friends, their children are a little bit younger than mine, 1 or 2 years younger. They've gone into grad schemes and into the workplace this past year or so, and they have basically said, all of the HR teams I'm dealing with and the companies I'm dealing with are faceless. They keep putting me in front of games and tests, and it's really faceless. So we've got to be really, really careful that we utilize these tools and that we learn and we think about how we're going to engage with them, but that we don't lose sight of the fact that we're real people, real organizations. We share our leadership, we share our value, we share, thinking of Simon Sinek's why we do what we do, that we are purpose-driven organizations. So I'm sharing with you things that you can use, but be mindful that we don't want to lose sight of the human aspects of that. We heard a little while ago from the panel there about benefits packages, sentiment analysis, flagging potential turnover. These are all ways in which various different AI tools can actually help you to achieve that. Automating data, again, this might be taking CVs into a digital format. It might be improving the type of communications that we do across the process of the organization. And then the L&D side as well. This could be mentoring in real time. This might not just be AI. This could be AI mixed in with a few other fourth-generation technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, where we actually do some onboarding. And there's a bank actually featured in my first book who failed with their chatbot first time around because they failed to take into consideration the people side of the business. They were introducing this chatbot and staff got very, very nervous. They weren't on board. This was Saxo Bank. And the actual clients found it really gimmicky and really shallow. It wasn't yet on that Gartner phase, you know, the Gartner phase of trigger of innovation, and then we go up to the peak of paranoia, and we drop down into the trough of disillusionment. Many people were very, very disillusioned a few years ago with the chatbots, and the bank's clients were exactly in that situation. But what they did do, they didn't sort of put their hand up and go, we've failed, what a waste of money with this AI project. They iterated, they innovated, they analysed what the objectives were, and they found another area of the business where they could add some value, and that was with the onboarding of staff. And they turned that data analysis into a fantastic tool that saved an awful lot of time and energy and money with the onboarding. So specific examples here from a generative AI point of view. We've got here assisting with the creation of job descriptions. I'm sure many of you have been able to do that. Competency guides. But all I would say here, and there's a whole list of them, I'm not going to read them all out to you. Again, the internet has not democratized everything for the past 25 years, and ChatGPT isn't going to do that either, or Bing AI, or any of the other tools. You've got to be very smart and strategic, that word's come up quite a few times today, with the way you brief these tools. I was in Amsterdam last month for the Association of Chief Legal Counsels, and the lawyers there, the chief legal counsel for some of the leading companies around the world, were, with my help, debating how do we avoid violating copyrights and all kinds of areas like that for our marketing teams, for our HR teams. So we've got to think really smartly, fact check. We've got to be strategic. If we brief the generative AI tools, then we want to be saying to it, we know it's a year, it's only been brought up to about a year ago, the data. It's trained on data from about September of last year. And we want to be smart. We want to say to it, write this CV, write this guide, quote this example, focus in our house style, which is this kind of informative way or authoritative, or you've really got to think very carefully. And that's why there are now AI prompters, which are new job roles that we're seeing come up, and people are, recruiting for those kinds of roles. So, all of the opportunities here across sales and marketing, across CX, and across HR, again, it's changing the nature of the work we do and making sure that we really think carefully about it. Recruitment as well, so not just drafting job descriptions and adverts, but automating interviews, adding value, and I think that's the key. We need to add value. We need to make the process really smart. We need to make it thorough. We need to add value and maybe differentiate ourselves from some of our competitors, but we must keep the human in the loop from the point of view of ethics, from the point of view of house style, from the point of view of, really making sure we learn and there's a continuous feedback mechanism. And then employee satisfaction as well. So salary benchmarking, assessing pay levels, monitoring employee satisfaction. For every area I'm showing you up there, there's a whole raft of tools out there that can help you with this. If you think about why is AI viable today, and has been for a couple of years, when it's had 7 decades of summers and winters where it's gone in and out of fashion? It's viable for 2 reasons now. 1, we've got cheap compute power, and 2, we have got lots of big data. Big data from smartphones, from the internet, from social media platforms. That's why it's viable. What that's meant is that venture capitalists have invested lots of money in all of these areas. And it's important to think about the partner that you choose to work with and do your due diligence, because there are a lot of fly-by-nights. There are a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon. There's a lot of people claiming to do things, and again, the AI washing. So, you've got to treat it really carefully and do your due diligence and have a watching brief on all of the different areas of AI in this space. So, we've done our own little polls, haven't we, at the beginning there? But how are HR teams using AI? The yellow in the middle is those that are starting to use it, and the blue on the right are those that have fully implemented one or more AI solutions. And you can see the biggest areas at the moment are in records management and payroll processing, some of the sort of more administrative side, and then coming close there with the recruitment and hiring and so on. But pretty equal split there across all of the different areas of the job functions that you do. Okay, I'm going to share some quick case studies now just to bring this to life for you with certain organizations, and then I'm going to give you a practical scorecard for success that you can debate at your tables for just a couple of minutes, which is really about how do we as an organization get started. So Just Eat, turning to a tool called HireView to adopt this skills-based hiring approach. So it's moving away from screening of CVs and actually switching to this AI-powered chatbot to speed up a lot of that for them, sending screening questions and so on, reducing the recruitment time by 50%, which is a big, big cost saving, a big time saving. What can you do with that time? That doesn't mean that team's redundant. What it does mean is that you're freed up perhaps and you've got now the data to be more strategic with what you do. This is Electrolux doing their digital transformation, adopting a platform to do with candidate matching and automated engagement with candidates, and some impressive statistics there in terms of conversion rates, decreasing incomplete applications, and so on. So you can look at these in a bit more detail. Again, I'm happy through Hayley to share a link to these slides if you'd like it. Graduate programs, Shell's been fantastic at this. Organizations like Unilever have done a great job at this, but they're getting 100,000 applications, for fewer than 1,000 positions for their global grad program. How do they stay competitive? How do they create this streamlined assessment program? They turn to, the HR team turns to AI tools to actually help with this. So major time saving, doing video interviews, getting in quite early in the process. There's a whole raft of different areas of HR that are making a big, big difference. Similarly with their onboarding, how do we onboard, like that example I gave with Saxo Bank, how do we onboard our people? How do we get learners to complete micro lessons to give feedback? An average course completion rate, you can see there, 75% against all topics. Knowledge is increased by 30%. So some impressive KPIs there that are really helping you. So who do you turn to? We've heard some great stuff earlier about aid, and there are many, many other sorts of tools on the market. And I would get you, to consider thinking about tools and vendors across a whole raft of different areas. The chatbots and virtual assistants, you can have a look at generative AI, of course. Think about how in your teams you can get this really working, how it can add value, what areas of your business might it actually make a difference in. Some of the recruitment tools that are out there on the market, go out there and do your due diligence on some of them. They're changing all the time. New ones are coming along, but it's important to stick with a trusted partner that can really help you. Onboarding, learning and development tools, and even simple things like a tool like Otter AI. Has anyone, show of hands, anybody used Otter AI? Yeah, 3 or 4 people. We're talking productivity. A tool that for free or for a paid premium version, you do a 1-hour Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, you upload the audio into Otter AI and it transcribes the meeting for you. It was revolutionary for me when writing the second book compared to the first, where I had to do everything so much more manually. So simple things that are productivity tools that are going to help you. So we need to think about how do we craft this digital culture. Culture, leadership, people-centered approach is at the center of what we're trying to do here. And we can see this is the Institute for the Future of Work. And what Naomi is saying here is, the impact on the workforce, that's what we need to think about, that it's designed not just to achieve company goals, but to improve the quality of actual human jobs. And I think, again, that's at the center of what we're trying to achieve. What kind of organization are we? What impact are we making? What's our purpose as an organization? So we get a lot of resistance. When you start, it was asked about leadership as well there, if the leadership's not on board. We get a lot of resistance. There's a lot of misunderstanding of AI. There's a lack of alignment. Let's just go through a few of these. This fear of jobs being replaced is part of that. If it isn't broken mentality, again, whatever age you might be in your comfort zone. It might not be because you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s. It might be because you're in your 30s and you've got a young family and you're super busy. You don't want to change the way you do things. So people have got their different reasons for staying in their comfort zone. And my advice is we've all got to constantly push ourselves out of our comfort zones. It might be personal concerns about our jobs, or it might actually be a lack of alignment between the organization, between the different departments, between what we are trying to achieve and where we think our company is pushing us. So comms, leading with empathy, having that ongoing feedback loop where it's so important to have a player like WorkBuzz helping you to get this kind of data. Generating the support from the leadership. I'm going to come on to that when we do the scorecard in a moment, but making sure that we get the buy-in from the C-suite is really, really important. Demonstrating need, not just jumping, someone talked about it earlier, not just doing this in a very tactical way. Everyone's using generative AI, we've got to do it. Strategically, what are 3 areas within our organization where AI could benefit what we do? And let's do some due diligence, let's do some proofs of concept, and let's work out what that looks like. That's so important. And, ultimately, retaining talent, attracting talent, treating people not as one big homogeneous mass, but using the big data to think about the segmentation of our internal customers. And then if we get that right, we can use it in our marketing for our external customers as well. Okay, so I'm going to share this next slide with you, which is all of the combination of lessons I've learned, case studies from my books, successes, failures. It's a very busy slide. You can go onto the QR code as I pull it up now. I'm not going to get you to fill it in completely because it takes 15, 20 minutes and I've only got another 10 minutes. We were never planning to do it thoroughly, but what I want to do is at our tables, just for a couple of minutes, think through what it is. And let me talk you through it now. So you can scan in the QR code and fill it in and maybe gamify it with your teams at a later date. You don't need to scan it in now to do the exercise I'm about to talk about. I'm going to keep this on screen for you. But what we're really saying here is to be successful with AI in HR, with AI in marketing, sales, whatever the discipline might be, or whatever the industry sector, retail, hospitality, telecoms. I'm going all around the world at the moment working with people with exactly this challenge. They need to have the right mindset for change. That is the fundamental one. These are not in priority order. These are all equally important. Number 2, they need the buy-in from the board or the management team, whether you're 2 people, whether you're 20,000. Doesn't require the board management team to be technical and to understand how this works, but they certainly need to be delegating and to be looking at AI's impact across finance, HR, marketing, sales, and all of the different disciplines. Number 3, not just tactically, but strategically, we need a business case for this. We need to then do a small proof of concept, roll out the results, iterate, improve, think about other departments. Number 5, collaboration. We're not a little island. Marketing, sales, CX, and HR in particular have really got to collaborate because we're all focused on, again, you might be in the third sector, you might be in the not-for-profit, you might be not just focused on profits, but of course we've got to make money to stay in business. So we need to have the external customer at the centre, but equally the people that deliver that service to that customer or client are our people, they're our major assets. So HR, marketing, sales, CX are so interdependent. And so that collaboration between them is really, really important. But equally, what about collaboration with our industry? What about how we as an industry, it might be Leonardo here, hospitality, leisure, tourism, how are you coping with thinking about the big ethical issues? Are you on your own, or are you collaborating with others in your industry and your trade bodies and so on? So that collaboration isn't just your internal, but it's with all your different stakeholders, and it's an ecosystem, and it's really important. Talent, buy it in, outsource it, have a hybrid, upskill. You are fundamental to the success of this project. You're about making sure the company knows its importance. You're about the impact it has on the company culture. You're about upskilling the organization. You're about upskilling leadership to lead in the world of AI. And so, your roles are so fundamental. And so use the tools to free you up to do more of this strategic work. Culture, talked about that a little bit, having a constant feeling and focus on innovation, and then thinking about the wider impact. We don't have time today to go into this in any major detail, but think about GDPR clauses with transparency, think about the new EU, the AI acts that are coming in, think about consent. I give you consent to use my data, you can now give me a very personalized experience, and so on. And then finally, we need a roadmap. So at your tables, just for 5 minutes, just with a partner or as a whole table, just debate 2 things. 1, where do we think we'd score highest? And 2, where do we think we'd score lowest? And I'd be interested to hear some feedback from that. So where do we get our high scores from this? If we were to do it, 0 out of 5 for 10 areas gives us a score of 50. Many people are in the middle. Some are transformational, but many of you might even be quite traditional. So you don't have to do the full thing, but just from your initial assessment, where do you think your team or your organization is likely to score really well or really poorly? I'll give you just 3 or 4 minutes for that.